My name is Dr. Zina Suissa, and I'm here to set a new series of interviews called How Does This Resonate With You? I'm beyond the moon and so excited to present to you Captain David Marquet. And I'll say it again, I'm so excited because I've read every book and everything that he's ever done. And he sets the standard for me for being a captain, for sure. Captain Marquet flipped around the command and control and used somewhat the coach approach of asking people how they would do it, not just telling them how they do it. But I know Captain Marquet has tremendous moral convictions. He did keep for himself the decision-making process on how to, yes, the missile has to be detonated, I believe that's the word, detonated or launched, and he made that decision because he takes the responsibility for that. And I totally appreciate that. I want to say, too, that I believe that his method, the intention-based leadership, can be generalized to corporations, teams, leaders, families, even parenting. I've thought about it in every single framework. So I'd like to ask him a couple of things. First of all, how are you able to give up this command and control, the authoritarian figure? How are you able to do that?
Mostly panic and fear. So what happened to me, Dr. Sousa, was I came up through the ranks as a submarine officer, and I was taught leadership, and the leadership that I was taught was all about telling people what to do. And the better you were, the better instructions you gave, the better leader you were. And I, because I was really good at that, I got promoted, and they said, "Oh, you're going to be a submarine captain." And I said, "Woo!" And the submarine was going to be the submarine called the Olympia. And I trained for 12 months to take over the Olympia. And at the very last minute, they said, "Nah, you're not going to go. You're going to go to the Sante Fe." There's a model of the Sante Fe back here. The Sante Fe at the time was the worst performing submarine in the fleet. And the captain quit a year early. That's why I had to go there. It was bad morale, bad performance. And it was one of the newest ships. It was different than the Olympia. And I said, "Yeah, but I don't know all the buttons like I would on the Olympia." Like, "Yeah, that's submarining is submarining. You know, you can't have a submarine without a captain, so that's where you go." This to me was incredibly scary. And one of the very first things I did was made a mistake. I gave a bad order, and the scary thing was the officer, knowing it wasn't so much a bad order, it's just not, it wasn't something you could do on the ship. Like shift in the fifth, if you have a four gear car, I said shift to fifth gear. And the officer ordered shift to fifth gear. And then the sailor who would have done it said, "What are you guys talking about? There's no fifth gear." And then it came up to me. It's like, whoa, that's really embarrassing. I looked at the officer and said, "Why did you do that?" I said, "Because you told me to." Because in that environment of telling people what to do, the counterpart is do what you're told. Don't think. And I was like, telling people what to do is not going to get me where we need to go. In fact, it's probably going to get us killed. So what I need to do is get everyone to think. And the way you do that, actually, instead of my picture, I was lean in to the people below me, and I direct and they report. And so actually, it's the opposite now. We want, as leaders, you want to lean back and let them lean into you. But if you're already like this, you can't go like this because it's too far. You can't say, "Oh, I decided yesterday, you decide tomorrow." What you say is, "Okay, I used to make this decision, but now I need you to get more and more involved. How do you see it? What do you think? What would you do? What would you recommend? If I weren't here, what would you do? If this was your call, what would you do? If this was your company, what would you do? What do you intend to do if you own this?" And then maybe even just do it. But intent was where I liked. And so I went out to the team. I said, "Look, stop asking permission. Just say, I intend to surface the ship, submerge the ship, whatever, to start the reactor." And we never use the word empowerment because it's not really defined. And like, what does it mean? But this language-based approach, and we didn't have time. Like I don't need to convince people to be more empowered and then they're going to act it. It's like, no. Just say these words, and that cascaded down to the crew in an amazing way. And so pretty soon, junior most guys So now what happens is because I'm leaning back, everyone else is leaning in, the whole organization moves in the other direction. But there's a bias for action. That's what was exciting about it.
You know what you just said is, and I read in your book, you talked about psychological accountability, psychological ownership. And I think that's where you were leaning towards, that they, by the fact that you helped them, I know you don't like the word empower them, you did empower them.
Yeah.
They committed to it, and it became part of a we kind of thing. That's what I'm hearing.
Right. So, we've had, people would say things like, well, leadership is getting people to do what you want them to do and make them think it's their idea. And I was like, well, that sounds really manipulative. How about we actually let it be their idea?
Yeah.
But the problem is, for me, over and over and over again, they would come up, my team would come to me and say, hey, we got a problem. And I would think I knew the answer. Mm. And I just wanted to go, oh, yeah, just do this. Because as soon as I said that, we would be doing it. But what I was doing was I was just making a very short-term, a tactical win. Because they would do it, but I wasn't developing the ability in them to come to me and see and think like a captain. And so the whole idea behind the book was, the short story is, we started winning all these awards. We had the best morale, the best performance, but that's not what it's about. Because it's still, that's potentially still about me, about what a great decision maker I was. But it was in the 10 years after I left the ship, 10 officers rose through the ranks and became submarine captains. This is what it's about. Like, what are your people doing after you let them go beyond their own? What is your team doing when you're home on the weekend, or when you're not involved? Because that's when it's truly their thing that they can be proud of. Otherwise, it's just you.
Yeah. But then you created a climate of trust where you had to trust them that they knew what they were doing. You enabled them to do it. You believed in that they could do it. That's what my thoughts are.
And you got to go small, 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 small. And the other thing was, we have this idea that, okay, the leader, first of all, when you prove to me you can do something, I'll then give you this is not the right way to do it. First of all, like I said, I believe you can do this. So I'm going to give you a little bit of decision-making authority. Prove to me, and unless you prove to me that you can't, it's yours.
Right. So it's
now we're moving rapidly.
Yeah.
But the other thing we did was we separated trust from competence.
Okay.
And too many times it's like, if you actually look up the psychological definition, as you would know, we tend to commingle trust and competence, which has the following negative impact. Let's say you're driving me to the airport, and I think you should turn right, but you actually turn left. And I say, do I trust you? If I think you're trying to get me to the airport, then I trust you. Whether or not turning right or left is the right way to go to the airport is not about trust. It's about reading the map. If I thought you were actually trying to take me not to the airport, then that's a trust issue. But if you and I are aligned what we're trying to do, then we trust each other. It has nothing to do with whether, when you say turn left, I agree with that. That's a map reading issue. And when you can separate that, because the emotional component of do you trust me, it's rock solid. Yes, we trust each other. Now let's have an unemotional conversation about turn right or left.
But that's also a competence issue. Would you agree? That's being competent in the skills.
Yes.
Know the skills. I think.
Right. And competency is a less emotional thing. So in other words, we want to lower the barrier.
Yes.
We want to lower the barrier to having a conversation about turning right or left and have it not feel icky.
Right.
And the way you do is you break it apart from trust.
Got it. So let me ask you on it. I'm a psychologist. I'm going to go into the emotions for a minute. I really like the area of emotions. What did it feel like giving up that authority?
It was scary. So here's what we do with our executives. The first activity we tell them to do is they have to go to dinner 10 times at a restaurant, or the next 10 times they go to dinner, they can't order. They have to turn to the waiter or the waitress and say, you pick, and don't play it safe. Now, I'm not talking about the typical, oh, you give me 3 choices and I'll pick one. That's too safe. You can't know what comes out till they bring it to you and put it in front of you. Yeah. Now, if you have if you're allergic to shellfish, yeah, you tell them, hey, that's an issue of clarity, But here's what's going to provoke. Number one, you're going to feel what it's like to give up control, and you have to live with that anxiety. I got a friend who can't not drive. If she's in a car, she has to drive. Okay, it's a control problem or issue problem. But the other thing that's going to happen is you're going to have to assess. You're going to look at the other person. You're going to see their body language. You're going to look at their facial expressions. Are they okay with doing this? Some of them are going to say, awesome, great. Some of them are like, really? Are you sure? Blah, blah. And so that is an issue of safety. They know how to order things off the menu. They probably have an idea of what would be a good meal. But you haven't made it safe for them. And this is exactly the same thing that happens at work. So then you got to make it safe for that person. That's going to take things like saying, look, anything on page 3, anything with chicken, anything with a lot of veg, whatever it is, and what you're basically narrowing the bumpers. And this is, again, exactly what you're going to have to do with your team when you practice this.
Good answer. So you've given me time, and I appreciate it so much. And I could go on and on because I've read so much about you and appreciate so much what you have to offer. I believe what you offer could go, like I said, into any corporation, leadership, teams, families, and even how to parent. I think parents need to learn a few things along the way, which I've had to learn, you got to learn, change that command and control, give some of that control.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to ask you one more question. What's in store for you? What's your future?
So that's kind of what we do now. I travel around, give talks, talk to groups and companies. We got a couple of projects that I think are very interesting. Number one is we're making a virtual reality leadership simulator. So people can come on the submarine and sort of feel what it was like. And we'll let them operate in teams. And they'll understand. What happens is things will get so complicated that we can't rely on one person telling everyone what to do. Another thing is I'm working on a new project, a new book, which will be Talk Like a Leader. The title's Talk Like a Leader. And the idea is we believe leadership is like a language. It's not so much something I get in my head. If it doesn't come out, but a lot of times people have the best intentions here, but it just doesn't come out. And so if we could help people a little bit with some sentence starters or some phrases or some words that allows them to achieve what they're already wanting to achieve, that would be a good thing. So that's the project we're working on.
Maybe. Amazing. A little traveling too, maybe some having fun.
Yeah. I'm going to, so this week I'm going to Cayman Islands and then over to Munich. Amazing. I was up in up north of Ottawa last week with the Special Forces guys in Canada.
Not far from my hunting grounds here, So
yeah.
Thank you. I think you're amazing. I started off by saying you're amazing. You truly are. You don't represent for me what a captain is, because we read about captains. Captains say it and they do it,
Yeah.
Turning everything around. But I think so much for the good. I think most companies have to adapt your style, the paradigm of, the shifting, the flipping everything upside down and testing it out. But the two, leaning in, absolutely. And thank you so much. And I really appreciate the time you spent with me.
All right, well, thank you. And hello to all your viewers and listeners.